up, everybody? Welcome back to Plain Jane Cars, and this is a Plain Jane Cars podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I got a special guest again. All of my guests are special. You'll hear me say that, special guest. But it's our second time having a return guest. Welcome to the podcast, Joel.
Thanks for having me on again.
Man, I had so much fun on our last episode. If you haven't listened to that or if you haven't watched it, obviously you can go to YouTube and find it on YouTube on the channel. If you're on any podcasting platform, the episode is called The Resurrection Hope. Funny play on words. If you know, you know, right? But we brought back certain cars that we thought were amazing cars that manufacturers had discontinued.
Gone too soon.
And surprisingly enough, the Viper didn't make it.
Got some plans for that.
Okay. I think
out.
we could probably do 2 or 3 shows on that because there's a lot of good cars that are discontinued now that we all love to see come back.
Gone before their time. They could come back even better than before.
I agree with that 100%. So Joel, as I said in my last episode, if it's your first time listening, he is an encyclopedia of car knowledge. I mean, beyond car knowledge, but what he knows about cars is amazing. So I immediately hit him up after I enjoyed the last episode. I said, hey, man, you got to come back on. And he was willing to, so thank you again. And he had some show ideas. I had some show ideas. And one of the ones I wanted to do was just to hear Joel's perspective on the best of every category car that's out right now. So I gave him the categories, and I gave him the definition of best. Now, everybody's definition of best will slightly differ, I would say. You agree, right?
Yeah, there's room for some subjective input there. Yeah.
It's a word I was going to use. The list is subjective. So there are going to be some cars that you will see are going to be left off. There are going to be some ones that make you might maybe say, huh? But if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below each one of your cars that you say are the favorite or the best in these categories. And I'll reply to every comment. That's my promise. Best comment to get pinned to the top. And here, let me give you... Go ahead, Joel. I'm sorry.
And feel free, always, to tell me how wrong I am.
Yes.
Love to hear that.
Joel's not wrong. But if he is wrong, please let him know. I would be surprised if anybody challenges you. So this is the definition I gave to Joel on what I feel is the kind of like the parameters of what we're calling best for these different car categories. It's value for money. Because I think that's probably the most important, right? People are going to say, well, how much does it cost? So not every car on this list is going to be a supercar. Not every car on this list is going to be some German expensive import, right? They're going to be some what we would call practical cars because that is a component of what is best. The reputation of not only the car, but the manufacturer. The lineage, right? Does the car have some sort of lineage or is it more of a newer car, right? So we weighted that. Innovation, coolness factor, practicality, and something we talked about a little bit. I think it was either on Keith's episode or Jeff's episode. If you haven't watched those, go back and watch or listen to them. We talked about depreciation. So we wanted to factor depreciation in. I mean, you could put a Maserati on the list or an Aston Martin on the list, but the depreciation on those cars are epic.
It's not your friend if you're the first buyer.
No, it should be your 4th car. If you own one of those, or maybe a 3rd, I don't want to exaggerate, shouldn't be your first car because you're going to get crushed. So that's what we defined as best. Now, here's the categories. I'll give them an overview and we'll jump right into the list. And we started with sedan because people still drive sedans. They're going away. They're a dying breed, but they're still out there. Of course, coupe, convertible, sports car, which is a pretty interesting category in my opinion, wagon, another dying breed. They all become an SUVs, CUVs. And then I separated CUV, SUV, probably the most popular category on this list as far as sales, truck. And I just left it as truck. And there's a lot of different ways to go with truck, right? I intentionally didn't say pickup. Then these last 3 are like heavily intertwined. I separated them. I put them in the wrong order on your list. Sorry about that, Joel. Supercar, exotic car, and hypercar. And I think they are all in that order for a reason, but there's a lot of overlap there too. So let's get started. Joel, what is the best sedan that our listeners can buy in 2023?
Okay, insert record scratch here. The M139 chassis code. You folks love that.
M139. What the heck is that?
Maserati Quattroporte. This was made from years, I believe it was 2005 to 2012.
Sounds right.
And this was just an epic sedan that was put together. One of the few, well, it's an exclusive group in the first place to be a transaxle car.
Yes.
Second, to be a transaxle sedan. For those that don't know, the transaxle means the transmission is mounted in the rear. And that really helps with weight distribution.
Mm-hmm.
This thing was made like a sports car, but is a sedan that's the size of a 7 Series.
Yes.
It's
a full-size car.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a full-size car.
Huge sedan. So plush inside, but you can take it out on the roads and have a ball.
Yes.
You're by yourself.
4.7 liter V8. It's a weird number, I know. Something like that. Am I close?
Right. I think
Maybe
it went from a 4.3 to 4.7.
4.3. Yeah. I couldn't remember. It's 4.3 or 4.2. Yeah.
But this is related to the Ferrari V8.
Yes.
So, love the guy, Jason Camisa. He pointed out how this V8 was based on Ferrari's flat plane
crank.
V8.
Right.
Right. But they went with the normal version. I forget what they call it, but cross plane.
Cross plane. Yeah. That's the opposite of flat. Yeah.
And a lot of folks think it sounds better.
I think it does sound better, in my opinion, right? Through the entire rev range.
It sounds more like a traditional V8.
It does.
It's just very good.
It's throaty at idle and low RPM, where flat planes kind of sound flat at low RPM and idle. It's just you get in that higher RPM range, they're screaming, right? Because you have that balanced firing order. But I think the cross plane, Joel and I have talked about this. I have a secret fantasy to build a Gran Turismo. I think it's such a beautiful car, and I would ghettoify it with the way I do things, bags, wheels, all that kind of good stuff. But they sound amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Such a cool car.
You could always go a generation back, those Cameo Corsa coupes.
Yeah, the Cameo Corsa, yeah.
They're cheap.
Depreciation's one of the issues here, especially with a Quattroporte, right?
Any Maserati.
Yeah. Do you remember, and if you don't, it's fine, the MSRP on a fully loaded Quattroporte?
Oh, they probably started over 100,000.
At least, right?
Yeah, easily. And you can find some, even with relatively low miles, for 20s.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Sub 30. Maybe a super, super clean one owner, all the records kept, maybe in the 30s.
Yeah, we're talking like 30, 40,000 miles, which is
right.
Probably high for one of those.
I would say that is high miles, actually.
But if you're looking at a used car in general, that's kind of low.
It is low.
You almost have to shift your thinking.
Yeah, a little bit.
But if you're thinking, hey, you're looking for a Ford with 40,000 miles, then you see this Maserati with 40,000, you're like, hey, this is nice. This is a good deal. Until
40 is probably
you
80.
need to take it to the shop for anything.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your coupe. What's the best coupe that you can buy? This is a tricky category too, man. Because what is a coupe, right? I mean, there's some arguments that, like, you look at certain platforms where OEMs will make a sedan and a coupe or four-door, right, two-door and four-door on the same platform.
Right.
So is a coupe a true coupe, or I want to hear what you went with. What did you go with?
I think I'm going to go with an emergency substitution here.
Okay.
Buffering. Let's go with a Cadillac ATS.
Wow. Interesting pick. I know why you picked it, but tell us why the Cadillac ATS.
It's nice. It's pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Cadillac it's a decent luxury brand. They've got nice features in them. And then for the folks who want some performance, on the entry-level side, the 4-cylinder is really quite good.
It is.
It's a bit of a sleeper. And for those who aren't aware, this uses the same GM Alpha chassis as the Camaro.
I was going to say, it's just a ZL1, right? If you get a V edition, you're getting a Cadillac with a ZL1,
Mm-hmm. And folks discovered with the Camaro, some GM engineers took it to the autocross. They boosted the four-cylinder up to maybe 300 horsepower. Mm-hmm. And they were able to put on the same massive tires you get on the ZL1.
Yeah, same chassis.
305 with tires all around.
All the way around. Square. Yep.
And they took the championship in the autocross.
That's crazy.
Just with a bunch of suspension mods and 300 horsepower.
Caddy the Zigs with a four-cylinder.
The trick was the lighter four-cylinder got the nose to turn in more easily. Okay. So it was actually a much nimbler car.
Right.
For a tighter type of course, autocross.
Like an autocross course. Yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense.
Sure, if you're on a big track, like Virginia International Raceway, the power course,
VIR.
people call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, ZL1's going to clean up there because it's got 650 horsepower.
That's right.
The autocross, you're driving around a parking lot, 300's fine.
Yeah, you're not using 600 horsepower, generally speaking, right?
And you can do the same thing to the Cadillac if you want. And just have a cushy interior.
That is true.
It's a nice daily driver. You can just have the spirited drive of the back roads if you want.
That's a good pick, man. I have to say, you came out of left field with that one because I like true coupes, like cars that is actually designed and built to be a coupe.
Right.
Even though I have an M4, which is counterintuitive, but I do like. To me, right now, it's the GR86 or the BRZ. Oh yeah, that is such a cool car. Price, coolness factor, modability, drivability, depreciate. Like you go on and on and on, and I think the Supra's a close second. I think the Supra, but it's expensive compared to the GR86 and the BRZ.
I'll tell you what, the four-cylinder will be a nice secondhand hero.
I think so.
I mean, you know it's got to be pretty underrated. So it's probably making around 300 or
300.
Something.
Yeah, 300. Couple mods, you can make it 300 pretty easily.
And what's the 0 to 60? Still 5.1,
yeah,
5.2?
5 something. Yeah.
Even with the four-cylinder.
Yep.
That thing's going to be a killer secondhand.
It is. It is. All right, we're going to move on to our next one. I think that was a good pick. I like your coupe pick more than your sedan pick. I must say my personal preference, even though I love Maseratis. We did convertibles, and not many people, I don't know if it's age dependent or it's generational. You don't see too many convertibles with younger people driving them, right? So I'm interested to hear what your pick was convertible. I actually wrote something down too, which I think will surprise you. What'd you pick?
Tough call. I'm not really a convertible person.
Me either.
You know, I'm not a sun worshiper. I'm kind of hurts my skin.
We got all the melanin we need. We got all the sun we need. If y'all, if you're listening, go look at YouTube and you'll figure it out pretty quickly.
I decided to pick something that was, you know what? This is a bad choice too.
Come on, man. You can't be amending your list as we're going through it.
Buffering. Okay. Third generation Miata, whatever they called the folding hardtop back then.
Oh, yeah. That is a good pick. It was hard for me when I was looking. It's hard to find your way around a Miata. Convertible, like a true, again, like the coupe, right? That car is built and designed and purposed as a convertible. And it has won convertible of the year in every car and drive, road and track, all those people for 25 years or however long it's been around. There's nothing that even comes close to it.
And folks have been begging for a coupe. Myself included.
Yeah, actual hardtop. Yeah.
And now that the prices have dipped a bit on the first hardtop convertibles, they kind of make sense almost as a track tool. You know,
true.
Folks in Europe are picking them up and taking them to the Nürburgring and saying, hey, it makes sense. You know, if it's raining, you keep going.
Yeah.
Keep the top up. And it's better for the safety perspective, too. You don't have to do all the welding for the roll bars and all that.
It's actually practical for, you know what I mean?
Yeah. A practical track car.
Practical track car. That makes any kind of oxymoronic. Sam Craven come on the podcast. It's a guy that owns Garage Easty. I think I've mentioned him before on the podcast. He's a race car driver, and he has a spec Miata. So I would love to hear him come talk about his spec Miata. Maybe we can get him on one day. You want to hear what I picked?
Yeah, let's see.
A Bronco Raptor. It's a convertible.
Excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
What I thought about it, when I thought about coolness factor, practicality, right? Depreciation, value for money, it's not a convertible, but it kind of is a convertible. And those, if you don't know, like the new Bronco was really, it was built, I mean, it's a Wrangler essentially, right? And they are purpose-built convertibles.
That's right.
Like the term convertible doesn't apply more to any other car than like a Wrangler or a Bronco. Like it literally converts, doors off, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I thought that was a brainiac pick, and I think it's cool. We've talked about the twin turbo V6 to EcoBoost before on here. They don't really sound the best. It sounds like, kind of like my M4, like it's wheezing and it needs air, but they look cool. They're fast, and they seem to be a fun car. So that's my pick for convertible. Now, two categories I think are two of the most interesting. One we're going to go into next. Well, the next three I think are the most interesting because I think we're going to start digging into your nerdism. So you will be buffering on these three: the sports car, the wagon, CUV, SUV. The reason why I say this about Joel owns a SUV now, and he's been shopping for an SUV. So I know what his SUV pick is personally. Let's see if he picked the same thing for his car. Before we get there, let's talk about your sports car. And there's only one sports car that you can pick. So what'd you pick? Let's just say it.
I'm going to go with my gut here and stick with what I originally put this time. I've done quick change the last two.
Well, you already did the Miata, so you picked the right car from convertible. Go ahead and say the right sports car. Come on. No pressure.
All right. TVR cigars.
I was not thinking TVR. Come on, Joel, explain that one to me. TVR cigars, which is TVR makes some pretty cool cars. I've only seen them on Gran Turismo. Never seen them in real life, but.
All right. TVR is a old British sports car brand. Shortly before they went under, the last time they produced their masterpiece, the cigars, took their coupe called the T350C. It's a nice lightweight coupe, maybe about 2,400 pounds, and about 350 horsepower. They basically did a GT3 job on it.
Yeah,
lightened it, got the power up to 400, and they planned to have air vents in the fender.
Yes,
think GT3 RS, but much larger.
Yeah. Almost like shark gills kind of look, right?
Right. And it looks great on the concept car. The issue was the vents were a little too big.
Yeah.
And the placement wasn't quite right. So mud and rocks got flung up onto the windshield.
Yeah.
That's the kind of car maker TVR is.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And, they also had to make sure that the nicely machined knobs for the climate control, the radio, didn't come off in your hand. And the interior was just going to smell like fiberglass and glue.
Yep.
Just can't get rid of it.
No.
But it was fast.
Yeah.
And it was brutal. And it was a beautiful, fit-for-purpose car.
I think it looked cool, too. Like, those are one of the cars I think that it will always look futuristic, right? Like an E-Type. I mean, it's certain... It's probably none of the TVRs are going to reach the acclaim of some of the forever beautiful cars. But I do believe that car is always going to look futuristic, when you look at it. It's actually a good-looking car.
Icon in a way. Not like Audi
That's the
TT,
word I was looking for. Yeah,
but...
icon. Right. Transcends generations, kind of. So what do you think I wrote down, Joel? Sports car. Best sports car, value for money, reputation, lineage, innovation, coolness factor, practicality, and depreciation. What do you think I picked? Give you one guess.
All right.
It's the Miata of the sports cars. It's only one.
911.
Oh man, How'd you guess?
Well, it was either that or it came in, I think.
So, and that's the only argument that can really be had now, right? And we talked about that on the last episode a little bit. 911 GTS to me is the best sports car in the world right now, hands down. Not a 4S. I think the 4S is cool conceptually, right? It's nice to have all-wheel drive. But a true sports car, like rear-wheel drive, sports car, the GTS, is untouchable. Tunability too, if you want to go a little bit faster, right? If you want to, change the fuel, maybe go to an 85 or something like that. I mean, you can be down around mid 0 to 60 with a rear-wheel drive car. Track it, drive it, go out on a date with it. However you want. I mean, it's a perfect car. It's a perfect sports car. It really
does
is.
Everything.
It does everything. And the Cayman, the Cayman GTS it punches above its weight. That is an amazing car too. I think they're not interchangeable. It depends on the owner, right? Like who. Yeah. What do you really want to do with it?
Exactly.
I think the Cayman's probably a track toy, more than likely. Somebody that drives the car hard on the weekends. I think GTS is somebody like me, a dentist or a professional that's in his 40s and wants a nice car.
Yeah.
I like your pick too, though. So wagon, the dying breed, man. There are no more wagons. There are very few anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the best to you? Best wagon.
Okay. Because you said wagon or shooting brake.
It could be a shooting brake too. So I told him for our other listeners, I like shooting brakes, and Joel knows one of my favorite cars. Anybody that knows me know Volkswagen is like really. Anyway, so shooting brake or a wagon. A shooting brake is similar to a wagon. We don't have to explain it. If you don't know what it is, Google it.
All right. Yeah, I'll even give you a good shooting brake to Google. The BMW Z3 M Coupe.
It's perfect. Yeah, the clown shoe. That's a shooting brake. Yeah, that's it.
And I'll throw in a wagon, Volvo 850R.
Love it. Yellow. Has to be yellow.
Oh, yeah. Yellow.
The launch color.
Yellow with the anthracite wheels.
Yes.
Icon.
That's one of the cars. Joel just saw the intensity in my eyes. That was one of the cars. It came out when we were high schoolish, right? So mid-90s, 94, 95, 98, somewhere in there. Let me tell you something. I remember when I first saw that car, it was on Loch Raven and Woodburn. And I remember driving by it with my mom. I can't remember the side street it was on. It's seared into my brain. And every time I would drive by, I'm like, that is such. I never saw a yellow car that looked like that. Never saw a station wagon that looked like that. The Volvo nailed it. And it came with a 5-cylinder.
Oh, yeah.
It's just. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm talking about your pick. Go ahead. Please share.
Just imagine the torture having to live across the street from someone with the sedan.
No way. Was it an R?
850R sedan.
Oh, my goodness.
Black with the gunmetal wheels.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
I was made fun of in school for that being my dream car. I didn't care.
It wasn't, well, yeah. Well, we're both a little strange.
I was keeping it realistic.
Yeah.
I want to get that. That's what I want to try to.
Yeah. That was the aspirational car for you. Yeah.
I wasn't going to be trying to get a Ferrari F50.
No, at all.
Yeah.
Well, we're kindred in that way, Joel, because that car, that is the best pick on your list so far, in my opinion. I'm biased, but I remember when I first saw that car, and I wasn't we had a person I grew up around. They had a 740, and Volvos were just always practical. They were always like. They were known for safety back then, the 80s and 90s. And, you had to be like an accountant or something like that. You know what I mean? And the person that had it fit the whole Volvo archetype. Like you would. But when I saw that 850R station, it was just, and the guy, he did just some of the most subtle mods. He put like this little like steel cage, like separator between the back seat but you can tell, I don't know what it made it look better. It made the interior, he did like a lighter tint. He didn't go like a super dark tint. He had, it wasn't Trofeos. I can't remember what tires. He had an amazing tire on the car. It was, go ahead, please.
Pirelli P0 asymmetrical.
Yes, it's P0s. It was the first directional tire I had saw. Like I'd seen in person, but go ahead. Sorry.
This was the same tire at the time that they were using Oh, the Lamborghini Diablo.
I didn't know that.
That's how baller
That
these
car
Volvos were.
And it shows you how much of a nerd I was. It was in our territory, so we do field service there. And I was just like, I said, I've never seen tires like that on a car. And I was in the cars. I was like, this is so cool. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about your CUV, your crossover or sports utility vehicle pick. Or did you have another wagon?
Was that your pick for wagon too?
That was not my pick for wagon, and I'm so embarrassed. I'm not. I'll tell you what my pick. So So I wrote down a few things, right? So wagon is difficult for me because wagon holds a special place in my heart. I am a long roof guy, but I've never owned a wagon, which sounds weird. They've always caught my eye. I'm amending like you did, buffering. So truly my favorite wagon of all time is the E39.
Oh, yeah.
Like that I would say that 5 Series generation, every iteration is like the coolest. I didn't write that down. I actually wrote down an Outback, a Subaru Outback. There's a number of reasons why. I probably could detail them, but I think it's very underrated for what it actually is.
Oh, yeah.
It has the coolness factor. You can off-road it. It has like a humongous ecosystem. There's a lot of people that have them. And if you go to Colorado, they're everywhere. And it's the reason why. Like if you're an outdoorsy kind of person, like the roof rack, all that good stuff, biking, hiking, trail riding, like it's just a cool car. But then I couldn't pick because I had the RS6 Avant and the E63, so I'm all over the road. I think wagons I hate the fact that the next category is replacing them. But I would say my actual pick is the Outback. I think the Outback, you can't go wrong with a Subaru Outback.
And I'll tell you what, Legacy GT.
The Legacy GT, yes.
It's my similar.
The 2.5, right? Yeah, for sure. Yes.
I like to keep it on the road.
Yeah.
But similar vein, I get you.
Yeah.
The Subaru wagon.
It just works.
Yeah.
I was trying to think I didn't want to be too esoteric. And I wanted, the value for money thing is what kind of said I can't do the RS6, I can't do the E63. I mean, they are cool, it's just kind of super wagons, but Outback, bro. Subaru Outback. Who we kidding?
Yeah.
A cool car. All right. CUV, SUV. What'd you pick there?
Well, the one I've got my heart set on to own, perhaps.
Bias pick.
Well, there's also my esoteric pick.
Okay.
You know what? Never mind, because this isn't something for folks to buy.
We've been all over the road. We've been 2, 3, 4 picks. So, man, pick as many as you want. But give me your best, though. Tell me what your best is, and then we can do the honorable mentions.
Okay. Just the Audis just seem really hard to beat. Q5, SQ5.
Yep.
Had my heart set on one for a while.
Oh, yeah.
It came out in 09.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but I can move to a pre-loved SQ5.
SQ5 is a cool car. That and the Macan are both kind of like the perfect mix of everything, right?
Exactly.
It really is. Practicality, sportiness. But go ahead.
But, just icon, Lamborghini. LM002.
Man, you got me. I wasn't thinking the LM. No. I wasn't thinking LM.
Not the Urus.
Okay. Give us the background on the pick.
Lambo.
Yeah, give us the back. Same Countach generation, right? That was that V12, right? Yeah. Because really, isn't the LM, well, I don't know if the 002, I know the 001 is really a Hummer, right? I mean, it's essentially a military vehicle.
Yeah.
I think.
Because I think that's why it was LM, like Lamborghini Military or something like that.
Right.
So this was them trying to get a Hummer made.
Right.
And so you got a Lamborghini V12
in an SUV. And that's a true SUV. There's some argument. Now, I'm going to get your opinion real quick. We got a little time here. What is an SUV? Does it have to be off-road capable? Can it be modular, or does it have to have a frame? Like a truck ladder box kind of truck frame, or can it be unibody? What is an SUV to you? Because I think a CUV is just a car. right? It's a
Yeah,
car
it's a car with
lift, a little bit of a lift and a little bit bigger tire, right? 45 series tire or whatever. But what about an SUV? Because I think there's some in the car community. I think there's a strict definition of an SUV, and there's probably only a handful of true SUVs left.
Right. I think a lot of what's out there is more. They're crossovers. They're too big to be a CUV.
Right.
So
it's still actually a car, but they've made them so tall that you almost think it's an SUV. And what they did to the Explorer, I'll never forget Ford. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, they made it good for what it was.
Sure.
It's
the most popular SUV in history.
And those police cruisers are monsters.
They are.
They're probably one of the best interceptors.
Probably. Of all time.
Now.
Of all time. I agree. What's an SUV, Joe? Sorry, I'm distracting you. What is an SUV to you?
An SUV still needs to be more truck-like, not just a car platform with a lift. I'll admit that's more along the lines of what I'm shopping for, but I don't think that's what a real SUV is.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either.
So
I call my wife's car an X5. I call it a station wagon because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. They call it the marketing people, and I'm a marketing guy. Genius.
Vehicle now.
Genius. Like, no, it's just a car. It's a hatchback. That's what you have. Stop. It's not nothing. It's a station wagon that looks cool.
And my issue is I love hot hatches, but I can't, stoop down on one. So I like the CUVs that have some punch to them. But I'm not going to try and pretend that, hey,
it's
an
SUV. No.
It's rough. No.
Do you remember the Nissan Xterra?
Loved it.
To me, one of the coolest, it did everything, in my opinion. And I think it was of its time, right? I don't think you're going to see that retro people, rebuilding Xterras. But I think that was one of the coolest SUVs of all time. That and the CRV. I mean, the CRV on the practical side of things, but I think they captured the person that's probably searching for a 90s Land Cruiser right now. That same person that wants a real, I like to use the term full fat SUV, 13 miles to the gallon,
Right.
Or LX 570 or something, you know what I mean? Like a real deal SUV.
Yeah. I got to give a shout out to the Lexus GX 460 though. Those were like a Range Rover that worked.
Yeah. My buddy Kyle, he has one and it's super, super cool. We're running short on time. Not short on time, but let's move through our list. Yeah. Truck. And I didn't say pickup truck, I just said truck. So what is your best truck? I think there's only one. No, I'm joking.
That's right. I didn't really think
I'm biased.
Outside of pickups.
Yeah, because you could go anywhere with this truck. I mean, there's a lot of options, obviously.
But I'll stick with the easy one.
Okay.
Dodge Ram SRT10.
SRT10. There's only one. There's only
one
really one truck that you could SRT. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, I mean that's all that needs to be said. Viper truck.
A Viper truck. This will be about 3 weeks ago. Donut Media did a video on driving every Viper, every generation, Gen 1 through Gen 5, and they told a little story through each one. And in between Gen 3 and Gen 4, they drove an SRT10. And they were like, this is the coolest truck ever. And it is. Mm-hmm. It is. I'm fortunate enough to have a friend that had one and got to enjoy it with him. I think manufacturers are still making fun trucks. You got the TRX now. You got the Raptor R. None of them have a crazy 10-cylinder in it, though. None of them are Viper trucks. And that truck was just amazing. Like, levels to it. Amazing. Let's start with, I think this is the order in which car people view these, from most accessible to least accessible, right? Super, then exotic, then hyper. Do I have that right? Most accessible to least accessible? Or do I have exotic and super backwards?
I'm not sure.
Because there's some people that would say a Corvette Z06 is a supercar now.
Right.
But I don't know if people would call it exotic, though.
Yeah.
That's why I put them that way. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or a ZL1. There's some people that would say, there's some people ZL1 1LE. There's some people who would say that's a supercar. Like that is, or a 911, right? 911 GT3. Some people would say that's a supercar, but it's not necessary in my pea brain. It's not an exotic though, is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about that on an episode. What makes a car a supercar? What makes a car exotic? But what's your supercar pick? Sorry. What's your super?
Supercar. McLaren SLR.
Oh, dope pick. Why'd you pick that one? That's a dope pick.
Well, I love GT cars, and
Yes.
this felt like the ultimate GT.
And that was their last co-project, right? Wasn't it?
Well, first and only. Mr.
That's true. No, you're right. You're right. Go ahead.
Professor Murray was not happy about working with that.
That's right.
Mr. McLaren F1.
I remember hearing the story. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's coming back to me as you said it. Yeah. Go ahead. Anyway.
Did you think about what he did with the McLaren F1
Yeah.
and what he's done with the T50?
Yes.
And then you look back at the SLR. You could tell he was not happy about having to work on that.
No. That was not in the Gordon Murray mold at all.
But he made it very good.
It's a good car.
He loves natural aspiration, despises turbos, and
Yeah.
all right, fine, I'll take a supercharger.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. But just the way that car looked, I remember the having. That's when fender vents were all the craze for some reason. Like the Z3 to me, BMW kind of brought it back, and they just took it and turned it up to 15. The swan door. I don't even know what those doors are called because they kind of have like a swanish effect, like kind of like the Aston mixed with the Lamborghini, not quite a scissor. Like it is a gorgeous car. Those one of those ones that I think is, I'm not going to call it timeless, but it's iconic.
Oh, absolutely.
SLR is iconic for sure.
And I forgot what I was going to say. One of the things about them is, they were maybe a hit as soon as they first came out, and then died down real fast.
It did.
But folks are starting to appreciate him again a little.
Well, Manny Koshman's buying all of them. If you don't know who he is, go look him up on YouTube. I think he owns 9 now, something like that.
Well, hopefully, maybe he took one over to MSO.
He did.
McLaren's Special Operations, because they have a nice little deal where they tone down the styling and McLarenize it a little bit. Take some of the Mercedes design aspects out of it, put a McLaren badge on. They toned down the side vents.
Yeah.
They made them look like the McLaren logo.
Like a McLaren logo, yeah.
It's pretty neat.
He had one done. I think he has another one over there now being redone by them. So what's your exotic pick, Joel? That's a good supercar pick. What's your exotic car pick?
Okay, now, this was tough. I remember seeing folks say that this was an exotic. It kind of stuck out in my mind. Because, for some, it doesn't quite have the performance to be a supercar.
Okay.
But I do think it's an amazing driver's car. The Honda NSX Type R.
Oh, yeah.
NA2.
Yeah.
NSX is definitely an exotic.
100%. Especially a
maybe
Type R.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it didn't just, burn up the road the same as a 911 Turbo.
Yeah.
Big deal. It's a different animal. It's
Yeah.
MR, naturally aspirated handling machine. And, with the exotic materials it used, even when they first launched back in, 91?
Yep.
Or something like that? That was definitely an exotic car.
It was. We think a lot alike, and maybe because we're the same age and we like a lot of the same stuff. I was thinking R34 Nerd Edition. Like, it's not exact. It is exotic because it's so rare. Yeah. And, I mean, you can tell by, maybe, I hate to look at prices of stuff, what people are willing to pay for it to prove that it's actually exotic. I mean, $200,000-$300,000, like, as an entry point, if you can find one. So, yeah, I agree. Type R, NSX, 100% exotic. That's a cool one. You know, one of the ones I think a modern exotic. I hope I'm right. I'm going to look back. This is going to be on the internet forever. The Aston Martin Valkyrie.
Oh,
that is such an interesting car. Like it could, and if they ever deliver them to people to pay for them, it'd be interesting to see like what happens in 5 years, 10 years, like how that car actually ages and how people view it, because it's the definition of an exotic. It's not really a supercar, not really a hypercar. It's kind of right in that middle, just like super weird, different, cool. And I like any car that is really like a homologate, almost like a race car, right? Like an F1 style car that's on the road.
I mean, is it supposed to be an ultra car now?
Maybe it is an ultra. Maybe it isn't. Maybe we didn't do ultra, but maybe it could be an ultra. Actually, my hyper is really probably an ultra. What'd you pick for hypercar?
Oh, ultra. I mean, I'm sorry, hyper.
Hyper. Yeah, hyper.
I couldn't decide on an edition,
okay.
But I could blame Horatio for that.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go Koenigsegg because you're such a, But go ahead. Sorry.
But
1-to-1 is what I thought you were gonna pick.
Artistry that just goes into the Paganis.
100%.
I couldn't decide on a Zonda.
100%.
I just liked them a little more than the Wyras.
Yes. Which any Zonda. The R though, right?
Maybe the tricolor.
The tricolor. Yeah. Oh. I agree with you. So when I was in London, I don't know when the Zonda first came out, and the MP412C was out. That was what was in the dealerships, in the little gallery dealerships that they have in the Marble Arch. And I remember, I still have the picture on my phone of the Zonda, and I was like, Lamborghini's in trouble. Like I just remember saying that, in my 20s or so, almost 20 years ago. I was like, that is such a beautiful car. Everything about it. I didn't even know about the performance at the time. I didn't know what it was, actually. This was still so boutique at the time.
And Horatio just did such a great job with it. He didn't, he moved to Italy and just showed up on their doorstep and said, I'm here. You're going to see me. You're going to feel me.
Yeah.
And see, he didn't try and come up with some weird homegrown engine.
No, he went and got an AMG.
Exactly.
Smart man.
Mm-hmm.
Proven.
And still going today.
Yeah.
And plus, they got the blessing of Gordon Murray.
Yes.
Because I remember an article where Gordon Murray said Horatio Pagani came up, he grabbed him and just showed him the Zonda. He's like, see, we love the F1. We didn't put this in there just like the F1. And Murray was so impressed. He said, I hope this guy makes it.
Yeah.
And look at what's happened.
Yeah, two geniuses in my mind of our time. A lot of people focus on Elon Musk. Genius. I think he is genius in the way Ford was a genius back in, the turn of the century, the 20th century. But I have to say, Christian von Koenigsegg, and Horatio, we've watched them create vehicles. It's kind of the same thing that Matty is doing right now at Remick, right? Like, you have to admit, like all four of those guys, including Elon, but on a lesser level, developed like works of art, especially the first two, the Koenigsegg and the Pagani. Just amazing cars, amazing hypercars. I wish they made cars, or I guess they shouldn't, but it'd be nice if they get to the point where they make maybe a supercar or an exotic, like something under the $1 million MSRP price point, like something in that, like an Aventador competitor, something in that probably MSRP 350 to maybe 650 fully loaded. 750 somewhere in there. It would be cool if they did that. I don't think that's probably their ambition, but I would love to see what they would come up with. A little bit down market a little.
Yeah, I guess the trick for them is they don't have the capacity to do numbers for that.
They don't have the manufacturing to do it.
That's kind of the bummer.
No, Coach built cars, man. So my pick. I'll give you my pick, and we'll get out of here. Oh, did I move your camera? I'm sorry.
Oh no.
I didn't know where to go for exotic because hypercar. There's so many hypercars. I struggled with.
It's hard to go non-Bugatti, isn't it?
It's I have a. I mean, and so I'll say I had a Bugatti Mistral, right? But a strong honorable mention to the SSC Tourtar and the Hennessy F5. Like two American manufacturers, in my opinion, that built, without all the controversy aside, that built some really cool hypercars. Yeah. But it's hard to find your way around Bugatti. Volkswagen, I mean, they figured it out. They have the formula. And they keep puking them out. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Rimac, right? Like when they go to an all-electric. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to compete with them. I mean, Mate now has the access to VW's production. I don't know, like the Tourtar and all those guys, they can kind of hang it up. When you look at the Navara and what it does, yeah. But yeah, Bugatti Mistral. It's an amazing car.
Yeah, I respect the Bugattis, but I was just trying to pick something else.
I know, but they are, hypercar is synonymous with Bugatti. Oh, it really is. So I don't know what you guys thought of our list. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Joel's going to come back, and I'm going to tease the next episode, Joel. We're going to pick the best car from each decade. We'll try to squeeze that into a 45-minute show. It might be a little tricky, but I want to talk about the best vehicle. And we're still going to use those same parameters of best, right? Loosely defined, and of course, it's subjective as our opinions. But what is the best vehicle from every decade? Where do you think we should start? How far back should we go?
Well, let's think about the traditional audience for podcast. What do you think about maybe starting with the 60s,
think that's
maybe 50s?
Perfect spot to start. I do like the 30 Mercuries and some of the 40 Fords, but yeah, let's start in the 60s. Because that'll be tough. 60s, 70s, 80s will be the most fun, in my opinion. Maybe 90s. But, hey, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. If you're watching, thank you for watching. Of course, subscribe, do all that stuff. Like, comment, share, whatever. We love you. We appreciate you. And, again, comment below if you're on YouTube and tell us, what are your favorite cars? You don't have to make the whole list. And maybe what I'll do is I'll put a pinned comment with all of the categories and the things that we picked. And you guys can comment below that comment, and me and Joel will get interactive with you guys.
And today was Radwood in Austin. Would have loved to go there.
I know.
If you went to Radwood Austin, let us know how it was.
Yes. I've been following some of my buddies. Maybe we'll have some of those guys on. I know my boy DeMarlin, all the BMW boys went up there, and I watched them on Instagram. We're like, I wanted to go to Radwood, but it's okay. It's okay. So we'll talk about Radwood on the next episode, too, because it'll be happening because today is the 29th. But anyway, we'll wrap this up here. Thank you again, Joel, for coming on the show. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. I appreciate my remote executive producers. Appreciate the ideas, guys. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.